Are good people more generous, or are generous people better people? Or does love bring generosity, or does generosity bring love? It's a very practical question. You can be very nice to somebody you love, and you're not a nice person to everybody else. Or you can be a very nice person and you don't particularly love everybody. So which is the cause and which is the effect? Does love bring goodness or generosity, or does generosity bring love?
I don't want to interfere for a second and say anything. I just want to hear, so I'm keeping quiet over here.
Oh, if you have something to add, please.
No, I really want to know the answer.
Okay, so first let's define, what does generous mean? We use words very carelessly, maybe poetically to be more kind. We need definite meaning to words. What is a good person and what is a generous person? Are they different? Is every good person generous, and is every generous person good? Let's try to pin it down. What exactly does goodness mean in a person? I know things that are good. I know giving charity is a very good thing. The person who's giving the charity is a good person or not necessarily. So I have no question about the act. The act is good. It's a mitzvah. But what about the person? So when we say a good person, what exactly do we mean? A person who does good, but then what he does is good. What makes him or her a good person? So in Chabad thinking, in Chabad teachings, the action does not really define you. Of course, it affects you. If you're consistently giving charity, it will affect you. It will make you different, more generous, more sensitive. But it may take a while, because you're not by nature a good or generous person. So it's the mitzvah, it's the doing that is going to make you a better person. But what does it mean that you are a better person? You can't measure it by how many times I give charity. So somebody who gives charity every single day is a better person than someone who gives charity once a year? So if we are forced to pin it down and to define it, you have two people giving charity, both very generously. One of them gives charity because in their value system, in their understanding of life, they've come to the conclusion that if you have more than you need, and some people don't have what they need, it's only right to give them some of what you have. It's a virtuous thing. Like some people say, I feel obligated to give back. I was successful. Somebody made me successful. I got the blessings. I got the success. I should give back. In other words, it's an ideal. He believes in giving charity. Then there's another person who gives charity. He hasn't really thought about it much. He doesn't have a philosophy of life. He doesn't necessarily feel grateful for his own success and wealth, but he gives a lot of charity because he can't stand seeing people suffer. The difference between them is the first one gives charity because of his opinion concerning charity. His opinion is that charity is a necessary part of civilization. If you want to have a healthy society, if you want to be a participating, contributing member of society, you give charity. And he'll give great sums of money. But it's a philosophy. It's a principle. The other one gives without thinking. He sees a need and he reacts. Behind that is a feeling, how can I have what the other person needs? What gives me the right? Why am I more privileged? And it's not out of humility. It's not because I don't think I deserve. It's because the other person certainly deserves. So I have to give him. It's almost like feeling, not an opinion, feeling that if I have more money than I absolutely need, then it's not my money. It's the money belongs to the person who needs it. And that comes from a sensitivity of the soul that makes the other person's need more valid, more important than mine. What will be the practical difference? The first guy who gives because of his commitment and belief and philosophy of life, if he should be a little short, if he doesn't have enough to pay his own bills, which are substantial, then he doesn't give. The second guy, even if he has very little for himself, he will give it away because the other person's need is more valid than mine. So if somebody has to go hungry, it shouldn't be him. That doesn't come from a philosophy. There is no philosophy, there's no value or ethical system that says that somebody else's hunger is more important than your hunger. Logically, if it's your money and you're hungry, you spend it on yourself. Looking out for number one. You come first. Sure, if you have a little extra, only right that you should feed somebody else. But when you're hungry yourself, of course you come first. Real goodness, here's the definition. Real goodness means I don't just do good. The other person seems more valid, more real, more urgent in his needs than me. That's a good person. That is organic, deep-seated goodness. Imagine there's a time of hunger. Everybody's hungry. Everybody's hungry. And you suddenly stumble over some food. What is your first thought? What's your first impulse, your immediate reaction?
To eat.
Huh?
To eat?
Yes.
If you're hungry, to eat.
I'm so lucky I found what to eat. A good person His first thought is, who needs this? The default position in his heart is not, I have what to eat. If there is food, who needs it? It doesn't automatically be me. I'm hungry, I'm going to eat it. If I have a little left over, I'll share it. I mean, if you can imagine a man, a husband, everybody is hungry, everybody's starving, and he finds food. Wouldn't his first thought be, I'm going to bring this home to my wife?
Absolutely. And I was going to ask that. I mean, when we're saying ourselves, do we mean ourselves as a self or ourselves as our family unit?
So that would be the first step. The first step in goodness is, me is not just me. So if there's only enough for either myself or my wife, of course I'm going to give it to my wife. Because she's hungrier than me, whatever that means. So it is possible to get beyond myself. But that's because it's my wife. So we still have the question of, does the love come first or the goodness? But it's also possible that a person finds food and his first thought is, who in town needs food? Not necessarily a person I happen to love. Now that is way beyond the letter of the law. You're certainly not obligated to give the food away to somebody else. But that's the nature of a good person. So here's the definition. A good person feels someone else's pain more than his own. Now, many experts will tell you that that is not even possible. It's not humanly possible. If I'm ready to give away the little bit of food that I found and I am hungry, boy, I must have a really good reason. There must be something in it for me. Because a human being can't be that good. So now we have a definition for goodness. Now, what is generosity? When this good person finds the food, and his first instinct is to give it to somebody else, what emotion is at play here?
Kindness. Consideration.
It could be compassion. He has rachmanus. He has pity on another person. The other person is suffering so much, I got to help him out. So what is activated is a person's compassion. So you say, well, that's a compassionate person. A generous person isn't motivated by compassion. He might even, compassion is when you know somebody who is suffering. When you see somebody suffering. But what about, you don't know anybody, you haven't heard from anybody, you happen to find this food, and your first thought is, who needs it? See, that's not compassion. You're not feeling bad for anybody. You got to go find somebody to feel bad for. That's the generosity. When you combine goodness with generosity, you have a person who, when he finds food and he himself is hungry, and there's nobody around him who he happens to love a lot, like his wife, and there's nobody around who is depending on him for survival, he will go looking. Maybe there's somebody who needs it more than me. Where does that come from? That is generosity. That's called a big heart or a good heart. So generosity is very closely related to this ability to feel another person's pain more than my own. So what are we saying here? When I feel my pain, is that generosity? Is that goodness? Is it even compassion? No, it's an instinct. It's exactly what an animal would do. You find food, you eat it, because you're hungry. The ability to feel somebody else's pain above your own, that's not an instinct. That's a real emotion. And that's why a person who has that is a good person. Now here's the amazing thing. We say many times in our prayers, and we read it in Tehillim, in Psalms, God is good. God is good to all his creations. If you look at behavior, if you look at how God behaves to all his creations, he's good to everybody. Hard to tell, but they say he shows his love in strange ways. So fine, there are deep explanations as to how the goodness is concealed under the... All right, fine. But what are we saying when we say God is good? We're not saying he does good. That's a different subject. Everything God does is for the good. That's a very comforting and strengthening thought concerning life. It's not really a description of him. So if he does good, then we can relax. We can breathe easy. But when it says he is good, what does that mean? It means he cares for his creation more than he cares for himself. So if he was hungry, and there was only enough food for one of us, he would give it to you. You're more important to him than he is to himself. This is true. And we need to know this about him.
Rabbi Friedman, can we get practical about this concept and apply it to our everyday life today of how people need to be towards each other, or maybe should, I don't know what the proper word is. We feel each other's pain today more than ever. We see a lot of people suffering, and it hurts. And the instinct is to help each other. But there is just so much we can each individually do. There is so much that we can spare time-wise, money-wise. How can we help each other in these limitations of our lives today?
I think you're right. In many ways, we have become better in the last 7 months. It's I don't know how to explain it, and I don't know why it happened this time around. In the past, when there was a pandemic, when many, many people were suffering serious problems, they didn't show a lot of compassion. They became suicidal because they couldn't take their own pain, which means that they were thinking only of their own pain. And it loomed very large, too much to handle, too much to bear. So they committed suicide. So first of all, that's the first benefit. If you worry more about somebody else's pain, you're not likely to commit suicide. That's a little fringe benefit there. You see, because it's not a philosophy or an ideology, it doesn't really matter how many people I can help, or can I end all problems in the world? Will I fix the whole world? I'm not thinking like that. Anyone I know, anyone I see, I react. There's no plan behind it. And that's the beauty of it. People in politics, people in leadership positions have to have a plan. They have to have a vision of how to solve the problem and how to help the masses. The average person has no such plan. And so the fact that he can only help 2 people doesn't discourage him. There are 2 people, he's got to help them. So without asking and without wondering about the big picture, you do what you need to do in your immediate surrounding, in your immediate reality. If everybody helped 2 people, we'd run out of people to help. That's part of the beauty of it. It has no limits. There's no downside. There's no, yeah, but what? There's no but. There's somebody there, you help them. It's done. You've helped that person.
We're not only speaking financially. I mean, it always seems that generosity goes hand in hand with helping somebody financially. But is that the greatest help we can give each other?
No, of course not. It's just the most convenient example of it. No, a phone call, an encouraging word, a compliment can do more than money in many, many cases. In fact, you give somebody a compliment and you show a little interest, all of a sudden they find a way of making money. And you don't have to give them money. But they were so discouraged, they were so disheartened that they lost all confidence in themselves, and now they can't make money, and they depend on you for food. But if you gave them a compliment, the famous, teach them how to fish. Instead of giving them fish, teach them how to fish, and then they'll be able to do it themselves. Before you teach them how to fish, give them a compliment. Show a little interest. Reassure them that they are necessary in the big picture. then they'll find a way to catch a fish.
Can I give a very specific example? We're a radio, and we have a lot of friends of the radio who are musicians who always made their money by performing, doing parties, and that is no longer happening in the world, and they have lost their means of livelihood. Can a compliment help at this point? Because there's a lot of discouragement and sad feelings in that situation, sadness.
There are also musicians who are more busy now than they were before. So it can go either way. It's not a absolute law. But such a person, always entertaining others, suddenly he can't do that. Maybe it's time for someone to entertain them. In other words, they're always giving. Now they're in a need to receive. What do they need to receive? The same thing they give. A little joy, a little encouragement, a good joke, a little warmth. And that can literally save lives. I mean, all your compliments that you give me at the beginning of the show makes me look forward to next week, so it keeps me going.
Wow, I can do that.
And it doesn't involve any money at all.
Rabbi Friedman, but now we are also limited in being able to give warmth because we have lost that human contact, with everything that is happening. People are reluctant to invite people over, be hospitable, a place where you can show the most kindness and warmth to another person. How do we resolve that? How can we still give that warmth without actually that contact that is needed for it?
We are very inventive and resourceful people. Somebody knocks on your door and says, "Here is a package of food, 3 meals pre-cooked from your neighbor, from your friend, from your whatever." In some way, that is even more powerful than inviting them over to the house. Because you invite them over to your house, they got to get dressed, they got to plan it, they got to schedule it. It's a whole bother. And then maybe they're not so comfortable in your house, because it's not their house. So they're eating your food, and it's not as enjoyable. But you send it over to their house, there's no downside, unless you don't cook well. But, assuming that you can cook. So there are many, many ways that we can go about it. But the thing is, at least on the surface, it seems to be this way. When we were busy running around, so much of our good energy got wasted just on the activities. The energy expended just building up to the event. You're going to get together with a friend and you're going to spend some time. Yeah, but you got to take a train and you got to go that. You got to get on the subway, you got to get on a plane, you got to handle traffic just to get to their house. By the time you get there, a lot of your energy has already been wasted. And you're very glad to be there because you're exhausted. And some of the energy that could have gone into the kindness and into the compassion and into the understanding, into the good feeling of being together, it's been drained out of you. Today, when we sit in our own home and we're thinking, what can we do for somebody else? That pure good energy doesn't get wasted. It's more focused. So a phone call from you today will mean a lot more than it used to mean. Because it used to be, okay, so what do you want to do? Get together tomorrow? Fine, bye. nothing, nothing great came across except a plan to do some activities that are besides the point. We'll go here, we'll go there. Now it's much more personal, I think. Somebody calls you, they're not making a scheme, they're not building a plan. They just want to talk to you.
I have to point out here that the government seems to be all bad, but actually it was not all bad during the pandemic when the New York City, where we are right now situated with all this negativity that's happening, but there was still very, very positive aspects when the government actually called out to the people and said, make a phone call people. Take it upon yourself. There are people sitting at home, especially the elderly. We'll let you know who you can call and take it upon yourself. So they were doing very good things. They were calling out for the goodness in people. And that was a very positive aspect. But unfortunately, I have to say that we don't see a lot of positive aspects from the government in New York today. And if you don't mind, just please let us know, how should we be reacting right now with a very, very direct anti-Semitism from the government that we're getting? When it's coming from the people, it's coming from the people. But now we're on the next step. And unfortunately, that step is government officials that are singling the Jewish community out.
There are organizations who raise a lot of money and spend a lot of money fighting anti-Semitism. I don't think we all have to join those groups and become members of. Everybody is out fighting anti-Semitism. That's not productive. Those who are doing it and those who are elected or given that position should take care of the problem. The rest of us should enjoy life. We always believed that whatever's going on around us may be good, may be bad, may be terrible, but never more important than life. Because what are we fighting for? We're fighting to be free and to be allowed to live life fully. And what does living life fully mean? Living a meaningful life. So let's not lose focus. Our secret, our survival for thousands of years has been, the worse the world gets, the better we're going to get. If it's very dark outside, then our house has to be very bright. If it's very cold outside, then the house has to be heated more, not less. So we don't let it intimidate us, although we do what we need to do to fight it. But it doesn't replace life. Fighting it does not become our life.
But it makes a lot of people feel better when they participate in making a difference, getting together, uniting for a single cause, for a good cause, hopefully.
Making a difference is really what it's all about. Life means making a difference. But there are so many ways you can make a difference. Some more real than others, some deeper, more lasting than others. So living your life fully makes a huge difference. It's the strongest antidote to darkness and evil and hatred. It's the part that nobody can damage. So, Peter, somebody can smear some paint on your synagogue fence, or if you're fully alive, that is the best antidote. So, if something comes along and you're in a position where you can do something political or public or whatever, of course, But that's not how we have managed to survive. We survive because life is always more interesting than darkness. Although the darkness can be pretty convincing too. But we don't let it take over. Never, never. In fact, somebody suggested, what is the solution to anti-Semitism? And by the way, anti-Semitism is a very particular kind of evil. Not every time somebody says something against Jews is it anti-Semitic. Because some people just hate everybody. So, the hater is not going to leave us out. That would hurt our feelings. What's the matter? I'm not important enough to hate? You hate everybody else. So not every act of hatred is anti-Semitic. And I think much of what's going on today is just indiscriminate hating, indiscriminate ugliness. It's not particularly anti-Semitic. But fine. What is the antidote to anti-Semitism? Oh, pro-Semitism. The more good we do, the more good we represent, the better model we show the world of what life is really all about, the more pro-Semitism there's going to be. And that's the real solution. Make it so that Jews are lovable and hard to hate. That really is a solution to anti-Semitism. Not another security camera with another armed guard. That may be necessary, but that's not the solution.
Shalom Aleichem. How are you? I do a lot of talking, a lot of Zooming, many classes, many subjects, but that's all formal stuff. Hopefully good stuff, but formal. We also have a Wednesday night meeting that's more informal and kind of Hamish. If you want to join us for that kind of an event, interactive, time for questions and so on, if you want to join us for this side of conversation, click on the link below and join us every Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. Well, maybe not every Wednesday night, but we try to make it every Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. A more informal chat, which can be more enjoyable at times than the formal stuff. So check it out. Click on the link and join us. Try it. You'll like it.